quite some time back, I started noticing that my conversations were not satisfying me anymore. Used to be I would meet somebody and they would seem interesting and we would sit and talk, and mostly I would listen to them, and then if I had something to say, it was usually some interesting problem that I was working on, and they would feel like I had dumped on them and that I needed a therapist. That's not what they wanted to talk about. And so I would let them talk for a while, and then, of course, I ended up feeling like I was their therapist, and um, I felt exhausted and drained after the conversation because it was always like if I had a problem, all my problems were simple and easy to solve, and they told me what the answer was, and then they wanted me to fix it. And then they would tell me about their problems, and all their problems were unsolvable. There was no solution to their problems. They had tried everything, none of it worked. I didn't understand. And it was just a unfulfilling cycle that I was stuck in. And I came face to face with accusations of how I was groveling in victimhood, and uh, the answers were within me. And it just got to the point where I didn't even want to have a conversation with anyone because um, if I wasn't indulging in toxic positivity, I was being a whiny victim, and they didn't want to hear it, and I should hire a therapist. And and they were either trying to sell me something or convince me of something or get me to do something that I didn't feel comfortable doing, or tell me stories that were boring about people that I didn't know, or it was just I just didn't want to talk to people. I just didn't want to talk to people. There was very rarely did anybody have anything to say that I found was interesting. And I realized for my part, it was because I was stuck. I knew two things. I knew how to be a rageaholic, and I knew how to be a submissive. And so I started trying to learn new ways of communication that were more truthful. I think it's always important to be truthful, but it's sometimes important to use honesty carefully because honesty can be a weapon. So, be kindly truthful is something that I have been experimenting with, because it's hard when you're in a rage and you're so frustrated that you just want to blow like a volcano, to do it kindly. I mean, that was my challenge. How can I express this huge anger that I've been bottling up for 6 months, trying to make you happy and neglecting my own needs? How can I do that in a way that's not offensive? And I realized that I need to do it sooner. I don't need to wait until I'm ready to blow up. I need to speak up sooner and do so in a way that's respectful of others. And I find it interesting to understand their perspective. Um, what's going on inside of them that's causing them to feel like all this is okay the way it is? And can we talk about it? Well, some people can't talk about it. And so I started kind of playing with that, and I don't mean toying with it like a cat that's about to kill a mouse type of toying, but in a joyfully interactive way. I like to play at experimenting with new ways of communicating. And I noticed that if I set a boundary with someone who was used to me being accommodating and letting them have their way, even when it was uncomfortable for me, until I was finally so frustrated and so anxious about when's it going to be my turn to have things my way, that my anger became the issue and I was unreasonable. And I started just simply saying, that's not going to work for me, or I'm going to do this another way, or that's not how I was planning to do it, or I'm okay with things the way they are. I don't want to change them. One time I had my house all arranged in a way that I liked, and a friend of mine came over and didn't like the way my house was arranged and insisted that we rearrange it because it was bad feng shui, and I didn't want to, but she wanted to, and I let her have her way, and she hurt her back. And then, because she had come over to do me a favor, which I didn't want to do, and she had helped me rearrange my furniture, which I didn't want to do, and she had hurt her back moving the furniture, she wanted me to pay for her to get chiropractic care. So that was when I really learned I've got to start setting boundaries because this is getting expensive. And I still kind of think it was a planned out deal, but let bygones be bygones. But anyway, I figured out that it's important to have boundaries and why from that experience. And I've been experimenting with boundaries when I can find the courage. There are some people that are so volatile and my mother would call it set in their ways, that the fight that's going to ensue if you dare to have a boundary is not worth it. And so I just kind of don't want to have much to do with them. But learning how to set these boundaries has been very helpful in my life. I am learning to become more assertive. And what it's doing for me is it's giving me strength and courage in communicating on behalf of myself and my own needs. And I don't want to be a needy person. Sometimes it's just a desire. It's not always a need. But anyway, I wonder if other people have noticed that. Either you're sitting there listening, wondering if this person who was vaccinated with a phonograph needle is ever going to shut up and let you get a word in edgewise. Or when you take a turn talking, they're belittling you and humiliating you and telling you that you're stupid because your problems are easy to solve and you haven't already done it, and that why are you being such a whiny victim? And it just really gets old when that's occurring. And so I started asking people for what I needed. And thus far, it hasn't worked very well. I'm back to, I just don't want to talk to anybody. Because they don't want to hear what I have to say. maybe nobody's going to want to hear this either. I don't know. I think I'm going to go think about that for a while.